Somewhere in America today, 1,200 people will cross a line. Not a finish line, not a lucky break, not an inheritance or a jackpot. Their net worth will quietly pass $1 million. And tomorrow, another 1,200. And the day after that. The UBS Global Wealth Report for 2026, released 4 days ago, confirmed that the United States created 441,000 new millionaires in 2025 alone. More than 1,200 every single day. Nearly half of every new millionaire created anywhere on Earth last year was American. And here is the part of this report that almost nobody is talking about. UBS gave these new millionaires a name. They called them the EMILLI, the Everyday Millionaire. Not tech founders, not hedge fund managers, not inherited wealth. The 401k maximizer, the dual income homeowner, the diligent index fund investor who looked up one day and realized the number on their brokerage statement had crossed 7 figures. Today, we are going to show you exactly what these people did, what they had in common, and the specific behaviors that separated the ones who crossed that line from the ones who are still watching from the other side of it. Here is the uncomfortable reality sitting inside that 1,200 per day number. While average U.S. wealth climbed nearly 10% between 2020 and 2025, median wealth fell almost 20% over the same period. That gap between the average and the median is the clearest possible evidence that this wealth creation is not evenly distributed. The 1,200 new millionaires a day are real, and they are concentrated in a specific group of people who had something in common. Not extraordinary income, not extraordinary luck, extraordinary ownership. The UBS report found that nearly 79% of personal wealth in the United States is held in financial assets, stocks, retirement accounts, brokerage portfolios. The 4th highest share of any country on Earth. When markets delivered an 18% return in 2025, every dollar of financial assets gained 18 cents. The people who owned the most financial assets gained the most. The people who held cash or spent most of what they earned gained almost nothing. The 1,200 new millionaires a day are not the result of a secret. They are the result of a gap in behavior between people who own assets and people who consume everything they earn. And understanding that gap is the entire point of this video. Let's build the real picture of who crossed that line in 2025, because it is not the profile most people imagine. UBS used the term EMILLI, Everyday Millionaire, to describe the dominant category of new wealth entrants. These are households worth between $1 million and $5 million. Not private jet wealth, not second home in the Hamptons wealth. $1 to $5 million in net assets, which for most of these households means a paid down or nearly paid down home, a 401k that has been growing for 20 plus years, and a brokerage account with a consistent investment history. The UBS economist who presented the report told CNBC directly, the higher you go in the wealth bands, the more wealth creation tends to be linked to either the performance of your business or your investment portfolio, or both. For the everyday millionaire, it was almost always the investment portfolio, specifically the retirement account that nobody touched, the index fund that kept getting contributions through every market downturn since the early 2000s. The S&P 500 returned 18% in 2025, a portfolio that had been building for 20 years, through the dot-com crash, through 2008, through COVID, did not need a single special decision in 2025 to produce extraordinary results. It just needed to still exist. Remember that description from the beginning of this video? The person who just showed up, stayed invested, and waited? That is not a marketing line. That is literally the behavioral profile of the median new millionaire in the UBS report. The wealth was built slowly, then suddenly. 20 years of slow compounding, invisible progress, patience through downturns. Then, one strong market year tipped the balance over 7 figures. Give the full picture, including the uncomfortable part. Here is what the UBS data shows every single everyday millionaire had in common. They owned financial assets, consistently, for a long time, and they did not sell them. That is it. That is the whole story for the median new millionaire. 79% of American net worth sitting in financial assets means that a strong market year lifts the entire wealth distribution. But it lifts it proportionally to what you already own. If you owned $200,000 in index funds, 2025 added $36,000 to your wealth, without you lifting a finger. If you owned $500,000, it added $90,000. If you owned nothing, it added nothing. The UBS report contains a number that should genuinely motivate anyone watching this. Since the year 2000, the combined assets of everyday millionaires have grown by 170%, net of inflation. Over 25 years, holding the same types of assets, index funds, retirement accounts, real estate, the typical everyday millionaire turned every dollar of starting wealth into $2.70 of real purchasing power. Now, here is the catch that Fortune called out specifically in their coverage of this report. The tier immediately above the everyday millionaire, households worth between $5 million and $100 million, grew their wealth at 6.1% annually in real terms since 2000. The everyday millionaire tier grew at 4%. That 2.1 percentage point gap sounds small. Over 25 years, it is the difference between 1 million becoming 2.7 million and 5 million becoming 21.7 million. More people are joining the Millionaire Club every year, and the gap between that club and the next one up is widening faster than it ever has. The path to the first million is more accessible than at any point in history. The path from the first million to real financial freedom requires something additional, and it is worth understanding what that is. Here are the 4 moves that the UBS data says are behind virtually every everyday millionaire created in 2025. Move 1. Own financial assets, consistently, before anything else. 79% of American millionaire wealth is in financial assets, not property alone, not cash, stocks, retirement accounts, brokerage portfolios. If your savings are sitting primarily in a savings account or in your home equity, you are structurally underweight the asset class that created 441,000 millionaires last year. The vehicle does not have to be complicated. The S&P 500 index fund that Fidelity and Schwab offer with 0 minimums is the same vehicle that powered most of these new millionaires' portfolios. Move 2. Max your tax-advantaged accounts before anything else. The 401k maximizer is literally in UBS's definition of the everyday millionaire. $7,500 in a Roth IRA and $23,500 in a 401k, $31,000 per year growing tax-advantaged, is the architecture behind most of these outcomes. If you are not at those limits yet, your most important move is closing that gap, not finding the next hot investment. Move 3. Do not sell during downturns. This is the one behavior that separates the people who actually crossed the line from the ones who were almost there multiple times and never made it. The portfolios that hit seven figures in 2025 were not started in 2025. They were started in 2005, or 2000, or 1995, and they survived the dot-com crash, the financial crisis, and COVID without being liquidated. The 18% gain in 2025 was the payoff for 20 years of not selling. Move 4. And this is the one the UBS data hints at, but most coverage of this report is missing entirely. Start thinking now about how you get from the first million to the second tier. The Everyday Millionaire path, index funds, 401k, patience, works brilliantly to the first million. But the UBS data shows the tier above growing wealth at 50% more per year in real terms, because they have access to private equity, private credit, and alternative assets that public markets cannot offer. You do not need $5 million to start thinking about this. You need to understand that the strategy that gets you to $1 million is not necessarily the same one that takes you significantly beyond it. And building that understanding now is worth more than discovering it after you get there. 1,200 Americans will become millionaires today. Not because they were born into it, not because they got lucky, because they owned the right assets, left them alone long enough, and did not let fear or impatience interrupt the process. That process is available to anyone starting it today. The only question is whether today is the day you start. Here is what the UBS Global Wealth Report 2026 confirmed 4 days ago. America created 441,000 new millionaires in 2025, more than 1,200 every single day. Nearly half of every new millionaire created anywhere on Earth. The world's millionaire population grew in all 56 tracked markets simultaneously for the first time ever. Who they were: the 401k maximizer, the dual income homeowner, the index fund investor who showed up, stayed invested, and waited. 79% of their wealth, financial assets. The vehicle? The same S&P 500 index fund available to anyone with a brokerage account. Your 4 moves. Own financial assets consistently before anything else. Max your tax-advantaged accounts. Never sell during downturns. The 18% gain in 2025 was the payoff for 20 years of not selling. And start thinking now about what gets you beyond the first million, because the strategy that built it is not the same one that multiplies it. 1,200 people will cross the line today. The only difference between them and everyone else is that they started earlier and never stopped. If this video gave you a clearer picture of what the first million actually looks like in practice, hit that subscribe button. Every week on First Million Club, we break down exactly these kinds of real money stories with real data, so the path to your first million stops feeling like a mystery and starts feeling like a plan.